Today we will discuss the results of the moon's Mahadasha, etc. from chapter 53 of Parashara Horashastra. In this explainer, we're going to rigorously decode the precise mechanisms of this specific planetary period. No fluff, just the math and the philosophy behind it. Okay, here's our roadmap. We'll start with a quick overview of chapter 53, parse out verses 1 through 2.5 on the moon Antardasha and look at their applied meaning. Then we'll jump to verses 9 through 12 for the Mars Antardasha, cover its applied meaning, and finally wrap up with the chapter 53 calculation methods. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Chapter 53 Overview. So to really understand the overarching effects of this 10-year period, we have to look directly at the source scripture. The text lays out a fundamental rule. If the moon is fully powerful, meaning she's placed in her sign of exaltation, her own sign, or favorably positioned in a Kendra or Trikona, well, the entire 10-year period is marked by absolute opulence and glory. Now, you gotta remember, these Sanskrit verses aren't just poetry, right? They are highly technical astrological formulas. We'll be looking at the top section for the moon and the lower for Mars, hunting down the exact conditional statements the text uses to promise either extreme happiness or intense distress. Section 2, verses 1 through 2.5, Moon Antardasha. Okay, so during this period, the moon acts as both the major and minor lord. That means its innate qualities are amplified to their absolute maximum. The text isolates this specific window of time as one capable of producing unparalleled heights of success, but only if the mathematical and geometric conditions align. The literal translation is incredibly vivid here. It promises the acquisition of clothes, devotion to deities, extreme happiness, and, get this, even a kingdom. It's basically a comprehensive list of ancient status symbols encompassing material wealth and social status. I mean, think about it. An elephant was literally the ultimate luxury vehicle of the ancient world. But hold on, because there is a strict astrological catch to these grand promises. The scripture explicitly states that these beneficial results only manifest if the moon is posited in her sign of exaltation, her own sign, in a Kendra or a Trikona. Now, Kendras, those are houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. These are your pillars of action and manifestation in the material world. Trikonas, houses 1, 5, and 9, they represent inherent fortune, grace, and your dharma. If your moon is sitting outside of these powerful geometric zones, or if she just lacks strength, those grand promises of verses 1 through 2.5 basically remain totally dormant. The architectural structure of the chart is absolutely everything here. Section 3. Moon Antardasha. Applied meaning. So what does this actually mean for us today? While the mathematical rules of Parashara Horashastra are totally fixed, the manifestation of kingdoms and elephants requires a bit of contextual translation. A literal ancient acquisition of a kingdom translates today to, say, the attainment of a high administrative, corporate, or political position, a role of wide-reaching authority. And those horses and elephants, they're your modern high-end luxury vehicles and exclusive conveyances. Finally, the devotion to deities and preceptor points to a period of really heightened spiritual practice, mental peace, and philosophical clarity. Philosophically speaking, a strong moon represents a highly balanced and expansive mind. And practically, well, that balanced mind is exactly what allows an individual to acquire and actually enjoy these modern forms of wealth. Section 4, verses 9 through 12, Mars Antardasha. Now the dynamic drastically shifts here. We are moving from the moon's gentle, expansive nature right into the fiery, structural energy of Mars taking the reins as the sublord. The scripture becomes highly cautionary in these verses, outlining specific combinations where the interaction between the moon and Mars produces severe friction. The literal translation is pretty heavy. It warns of distress to the body, losses at home and in agricultural production, losses in business dealings, and adverse separation from kinsmen. The terminology they use, distress, loss, antagonism, separation, it all points to the fiery, severing nature of a malefic Mars aggressively destabilizing the foundation that the moon built. Section 5. Mars Antardasha. Applied meaning. Let's unpack the astrological triggers that actually cause Mars to manifest these specific malefic effects. The crucial point is understanding that these adverse outcomes are strictly dependent on Mars being weak or heavily afflicted. The text points directly to Mars being placed in the difficult 6th, 8th, or 12th bhavas, either from the ascendant or calculated directly from the moon itself. On top of that, it highlights the immense danger of Mars being associated with or aspected by other malefics in these zones. You see, when Mars is trapped in the 6th house of enmity, the 8th house of sudden upheaval, or the 12th house of loss, its natural heat turns inward, and it becomes incredibly destructive. By plotting this on a standard chart diagram, we can visually identify these precise danger zones. Take a look at the 6th house, known as Ripu, or enemies, the 8th house,
Randra, representing vulnerabilities and sudden loss, and the 12th house, Vaya, meaning expenses or expenditure. When calculating the Mars Antardasha within the context of Chapter 53, you must physically map Mars's distance from both the ascendant and the moon. If the geometry lands Mars in one of these three specific sections, well, the scripture's warnings of distress and business loss are mathematically activated for sure.
Comparing the two side by side, we are looking at an absolute masterclass in planetary dignity. On one hand, the moon Antardasha yields supreme glory, high position, and happiness, but only when placed in the structural safety of the Kendra or Trikona. On the other hand, the Mars Antardasha yields severe business loss and physical distress, driven specifically by its placement in the isolated 6th, 8th, or 12th houses. Keep in mind, the overarching Mahadasha is exactly the same. We are still in the 10-year period of the moon. Yet, the lived experience fluctuates wildly, from acquiring a kingdom to facing profound losses, entirely based on the geometric houses placement and the inherent strength of the specific Antardasha sublord. It's like night and day.
Section 6. Chapter 53, Calculation Methods. To actually apply Chapter 5.3 practically, you can't just read the text and assume the results. You have to follow a strict sequential calculation method, a kind of spatial mapping, to draw the correct analytical diagrams and determine planetary dignity. The correct procedure requires this precise 4-step calculation. Step 1. Identify the overarching Dasha Lord, in this case, the moon, and determine its fundamental strength, noting if it's exalted or debilitated. Step 2. Isolate the exact Antardasha period, whether we're looking at the moon or Mars. Step 3, and this one is critical. Map the Antardasha Lord's exact bhava placement relative to the ascendant to see if it falls in a Kendra, a Trikona, or a negative house. And finally, Step 4, calculate the Antardasha Lord's placement relative to the Mahadasha Lord itself. This final geometric relationship is literally the ultimate key to unlocking the true results described in the chapter.
This precise mathematical and textual analysis leaves us with a critical question regarding our own charts. We've just seen how the exact same overarching period can deliver either the absolute pinnacle of administrative success and spiritual joy, or deep physical and material friction. It proves that in Parashara Horashastra, there are no generic outcomes. Context, spatial geometry, and exact bhava placement are everything. So here's what you should take away from this. How does the exact degree and house placement of your moon dictate whether its dasa brings an acquisition of a kingdom or a period of profound distress? That is the analytical framework this chapter demands we master.